Good morning. It's Thursday, 30th of November. Crazy to think how close we are to the end of another month and the start of a new one. But we take that and we're grateful and we're excited about what the road ahead looks like. So, what are we talking about today? I want to talk about the start of my career and how my career started off as what we typically call nowadays an SDR. But what was known when I started as a BDR, and some companies still call it that. And why I feel that that is the best way for really anyone to start their career. Now, the main reason I say that, and just to make sure that we're fully clear, because I don't know who's watching this, of course, an SDR or a BDR is the most junior role typically that someone will take on when they are in a software sales career. Or in a large majority of sales careers, but of course it depends on the industry. And in that role, what you're typically doing is you are booking appointments and qualified meetings for more senior salespeople to go and take with the intent to close. And so the general day to day would be making phone calls, sending emails, sending LinkedIn messages, going to networking events, doing whatever is humanly possible to get in front of target prospects so that you can book and schedule a meeting, and then with that meeting have that then passed on to a senior salesperson who will bring it to a close. So why do I feel that that is the best way for either someone who wants to get into software sales or anyone who wants to get into some form of sales career? Is a few reasons behind it. The first one is it really builds you mentally. And the reason for that is because you're in a role where you're having to consistently do a lot of reach out and get creative about how you seek to get in touch with these senior execs or your target persona. And you've got to accept the fact that you're going to have to deal with a lot of rejection before you get to that eventual yes. And what that does is for the rest of your career, I don't want to say everything else becomes easy, but definitely a lot of things feel a lot easier than going through that level of rejection consistently at the early part of your career. And then as you start to advance into becoming an account executive or a leader, you always have that DNA ingrained in you when you started out your career as a BDR, and it just makes a lot of other things feel much easier down the track. The next component is the fact that especially when someone escalates in their career, you are always going to need to be able to generate net new pipeline, i.e. generate meetings and have a consistently full pipeline. And when we say pipeline, we're talking about the amount of net new addressable opportunity that you have within your book of business, right? The amount of customers and prospects and the total amount of revenue that's addressable within that book of business. That's a skill that you're always going to need as a salesperson. And even as a sales leader, you need to be able to look into that, look into reporting, data analytics for how your team is performing in all of those regards. So when you start out your career actually already in the trenches and in the field in that way, it just means that you've already built and trained that muscle to generate net new pipeline, to reach out to customers, to be out in the field consistently. And so it really helps in that regard. And the third component I would say to this is the fact that it really makes you, in my estimations, a true salesperson. By going through being a BDR or an SDR, you have truly understood what it takes to operate from an entry-level role all the way up the stack. If you try and jump over that role and just get straight into an account exec role, to me, you're doing yourself a disservice because you've not truly understood the full stack. You've not really understood what it takes to operate and drive excellence at every single level of being a software salesperson. Now, of course, there's some account executives who do a 360 role, so they have to generate their pipeline and take their own meetings and beyond. But there's nothing like having true focus where you wake up every day, you have one focus, is generating net new meetings. That's really how you build excellence and repetition and muscle memory at a particular skill. And so to anyone who's considering a software sales career, I would absolutely recommend starting your career as an SDR/BDR building that muscle memory, taking part for all of the reasons that I've already shared, and then starting to grow and escalate from there. If you want to learn or understand more about what it takes to be a successful SDR or a BDR, just drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to help and to tell you a bit more about how I started off that way in my career and then escalated over time. I hope that that's been helpful in some way. As always, keep climbing.